All right, students. So we're going to talk about latosols today, right? So very quickly, just remember there are certain characteristics associated with this particular soil profile. Bear in mind, latosols are in fact associated with dense vegetative tropical rainforest, and we know fully well you will find that in like tropical environments where you have plenty receipt of rainfall, and also the ambient environment is in fact relatively warm. All right, a lot of sunshine, which is favorable for vegetative growth. As a result of this, you will have a lot of leaf litter. All right. Now, they said thick leaf litter here, but in reality, it's not as thick as they expect it to be. But a lot of leaf litter primarily, which will be quickly decomposed, rapidly decomposed by the soil organisms. All right. Now, class, this rapid decomposition of organic layer or organic material, sorry, by the soil organisms would actually be very, very influential. All right. However, there is in fact a thin humus layer or topsoil layer. Why? Because these particular types of soils, they are the nutrient content is in fact, quickly absorbed by these trees to sustain their enormous heights. All right, look at the size of these trees, look at the density of these trees, look at the variety of different species and whatnot coexisting. They will require a significant amount of nutrients to sustain their enormous heights. This is the reason why, class, although they are found in dense tropical forests, humid conditions, and whatnot, the humus layer or the nutrient content of these soils are relatively thin and poor because of the absorption rates by the surface vegetation. Students also bear in mind that these particular soils are in fact very, very deep. When I say very deep, I mean can I exaggerate with the very there? It's just because I say very deep, but it's technically saying approximately 20 to 30 meters in depth. All right, that's approximately 20 by 3, that's approximately 90 feet. All right, down. All right, this is inclusive of the bedrock material all the way up to the unconsolidated fine materials as well. They are in fact highly leached as well. We'll talk about it just now. All right, they are relatively deep and they're influenced largely by chemical weathering processes. Now, this layer, right, just below the thin organic layer, it is actually largely leached. What is leaching? Leaching is in fact a process where soil components such as clays and minerals and stuff like that, they are washed further down the soil column by precipitation. In this case, it is actually referring to rainfall. Will transfer these nutrients further down the soil column, where it is in fact redeposited, all right, to form a layer. This redeposition, where it means that the iron and aluminium oxides, they are technically redeposited in this particular layer, forming what you call a laterite layer, which is in fact a hardened structure. All right. And students, this particular layer is very unique. What it does, it impedes or it perhaps restricts the flow, the expeditious flow of water further down. It's come to restrict the flow of water downwards. But yes, there are in fact certain rigid structures, but water can still find a way to go down, further down into the column. All right. But iron and aluminium oxides tend to develop a kind of reddish brown coloration because that's the color of the iron and aluminium oxides. Remember, oxides are in fact reactions of the components with oxygen, all right, and it produces that color per se. But the upper part of the soil is actually relatively light brown, all right. Students, if we bulldoze the rainforest today, these soils are so poor they can easily be washed away. The nutrient content can easily be blown away by the winds and whatnot, and erosion can be manifested. All right, that's why these soils are relatively poor. And if we destroy the rainforest, we disrupt the entire cycle. All right. Moving down further, we can realize from this particular diagram, all right, quite similar to the one that I actually given in the classroom, but the diagram itself realize that the color change is actually very much pronounced. It varies a little bit. As you move further down, the water and whatnot moves further down because of the process of infiltration and also through percolation. We should bear in mind that leaching also of the materials will not only stop here, it can actually be further down as well. At the same time, the moisture content, right, is pivotal primarily because the moisture is responsible for disassociating and chemically weathering this bedrock, this rock structure. All right, and that is the reason why you have clays and other unconsolidated fine weathered materials just above the bedrock structure as well. All right, okay. All right, this is in fact like another view, another angle. You can look at it from a different perspective. Thin or absent humus content because of the quick absorption, rapid absorption. We have masses of aluminum and iron oxides here, as you can see, which will kind of restrict the flow of water. We also have a leached structure as well. These soils are highly leached because of the amount of rainfall they receive, moisture they receive. All right. Students, bear in mind something. These soils are what we consider to be mature soils. All right. That is number one. You remember in class we talk about factors which influence soils? Well, guess what? The rainforest or the tropical forest here will influence the organic layer. All right, so the forest or vegetative cover would influence these soils. Also, drainage would influence these soils because drainage is in fact movement of moisture further down, which would essentially transfer components from the surface to the subsurface. And we know fully well aluminum and iron oxides are removed from the surface and brought further down to the subsurface region where they redeposit. So drainage is also another factor. All right. Students, we also mentioned time, which is a very influential factor. Look at the depth of these soils. All right, that means a significant amount of time was in fact associated with its formation. What about the soil organisms? In tropical rainforest, you also have soil organisms because the area is in fact humid, damp, and whatnot. And these soil or edaphic components, which are in fact soil organisms, will break down and mix and churn and create burrows and whatnot. All right, further into the soil structure. So another factor which influences this particular type of soil is in fact the soil organisms per se. All right. What about climate? Number five, right? The fifth factor which influences the type of soil. Climate is actually very pivotal, primarily because climate influences temperature and moisture receipt. And we know for sure why do we have this dense vegetative structure? Because of the amount of warmth and solar radiation we receive there in these tropical environments, and also because of the amount of moisture it receives. Remember, equatorial rainforests receive approximately 2,000 millimeters of rainfall every year. All right, or perhaps if you go further away from the equatorial, but still within the tropical environment, once it receives plenty moisture, it is actually something which is very significant. So climate is also a major factor. With respect to the parent material, the bedrock, this constituent here would also be a major factor as well, primarily because when these materials are weathered, you have clays and whatnot in this particular horizon, which is according to this diagram, the sea horizon. All right, so parent material also are in fact major factors, which so far we identified 6 major, all right, factors which can influence this particular type of soil. All right. So class, that is actually very pertinent. If we as humans decide to bulldoze this forest and cut it down, right, we will be affecting the integrity of the soils. At the same time, we will be influencing it at some point. But these soils are already existingly low in nutrient content. Why? Take it reiterate very quickly because of the abundance of vegetative cover, which can simply be will require a significant amount of nutrients to sustain their sites. All right, so this was in a nutshell soil profiles and whatnot in a basic format, which is in fact very pertinent, especially for your studies. So I hope this was actually beneficial. Just remember, you can see this particular arrow here. The downward arrows are in fact, well, it's particularly referring to movement of moisture and also materials and nutrients and minerals and whatnot under the influence of gravity, because everything is grounded. All right, gravity is a very influential factor in the entire planet, and this downward movement of water, is in fact very pertinent, primarily because we receive an abundance of rainfall. All right, and the moisture content is in fact a lot profound. All right, so you have a lot of moisture moving down into the soil column, which will sculpt, shape, provide color, and also different layers within this particular soil profile. All right, so I hope this was very beneficial. Okay. All right, students. So take care. Any questions, feel free to let me know.